Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We're back with another UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt. I just want to throw it out there before we get into any other stuff that if you have any questions, comments that you want to come up on the show or to be answered on the show, you can do so live. We have a couple people that have done so ahead of time, and we'll get to those for sure. But if you're watching live, feel free to ask questions, make comments. You can do so in lots of different places. If you're on Google Plus, or watching this on Google Plus, you can do it with the Q&A app that's enabled. You can do it on the events page in Google Plus. You can do it on YouTube if that's where you're watching. On Twitter, just use the hashtag UNC Hoops Talk, and I will make sure that I find all those and we get them answered. We get them put up on the show. If you'd like to make comments, questions for future shows or suggestions, anything like that, on Twitter, you can contact me at AllTarHeelDan. On Google Plus, it's just my name, Dan DeWitt, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the picture there that you'd be looking for on Google Plus. But pretty much, I'm the Tar Heel fan on Google Plus, named Dan DeWitt anyway. You can reach me through the blog, unchoopstalk.blogspot.com. Hopefully to be changed soon, but we'll get into that later. You can definitely email me, unchoopstalk@gmail.com. Again, suggestions for the show, comments you have, want to get on the show, anything like that. I'd be more than happy to talk with you through any of those. Also YouTube, it's just youtube.com/UNCHoopsTalk. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps so much, and it's so easy to do, and that way you never miss future podcasts coming out. And you go back, watch the old ones, watch other stuff I throw up there, Tar Heel related. So definitely a place to be and to connect. So yeah, most of this show today I'm going to anyway, because who's here right now, is going to be diving into what I think we can expect from the players on the Tar Heels this season. I'll spend obviously most of the time on the guys I think are going to be in the biggest rotation. I'm not going to go in deep into stats. It's going to be, generalized. This is what I expect, more or less than last year, that kind of stuff. Again, your comments, if you want to leave them, Twitter, use the hashtag UNCHoopsTalk. You can leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment on the events page on Google+, any of those places. I will definitely find it, put it up here for the show, answer it, whatever it may be. A couple of housekeeping things before we jump into those player expectations from me. I would love for you, if you post UNC pictures on any social media, whether it's Twitter, Vine, Instagram, Facebook, Google+, probably forgetting some, or at least one, I think. But if you use the hashtag UNCLive, no space, just UNCLIVE, it goes to a tag board, and it collects all the pictures, videos, whatever it is, even just statuses from Facebook or Twitter, anything like that. It goes up in one place, and so you can view all the photos that anybody's used that hashtag for up on that tag board. And before we get into anything else too, I want to make sure that on the YouTube video, all the links that I talk about will be in the description. On the blog for the show notes, all those links will be in the description there, so you can find anything that I've talked about up on those once I get those completed, once this is done. But use that hashtag UNCLIVE and post videos, pictures, statuses about the Tar Heels. They all get collected in one spot, and you can bookmark that, and you can jump in there and see what other people are tagging. And I think it can be really great if we get a lot of people on board. So I would love for you to do that. Also, if you enjoy this show, if you watched before, or maybe this is your first time and you enjoy it, if you are in a position to support it and support it more than a YouTube subscription, or even just watching and sharing it, obviously is supporting it, and I appreciate that. But if you're in a position and you would like to support it more than that, I've set up a Patreon page. It's REON Patreon page, and again, the link will be in the description, where you can support me. And my goal, everything that I get will be put back into the show. I'm not trying to make money off of you or anything like that, but I'm trying to get this show up on iTunes first is my first goal, to get a real website for it, make it more legit. That's my first goal, is those two things. And you can see on the Patreon page all the rewards there are, all the goals that I have, and things as we climb up, and hopefully more people jump on board to support. But like I said, I'm not trying to make any money off it. All going to go back into the show. But it's Patreon page. Just go to patreon.com/UNC Hoops Talk, and you'll find it. Again, this link will be in the description. But I have to give a huge shout out already to John B, who I've met on Google+. He is our lone Patreon right now. But it just blows me away, John. You're awesome. I'm speechless when it comes to it. I can't even believe it. It's just so awesome. But definitely go check it out. Huge shout out to John B. And leave suggestions there too as you become Patreon. I'm going to start putting up more stuff there only for Patreon as well. The podcast will never be premium. You don't have to pay to see it, anything like that. It's not my goal. But we want to get this up on iTunes, and in fact, I'm hoping that this will be the first episode to go up on iTunes. I'm working on getting in there already. And so hopefully, maybe you're listening to this iTunes. Welcome to UNC Hoops Talk Podcast, where it's a podcast for the fans by a fan, and we talk all things Tar Heels year-round, and of course college basketball with a bias. So let's jump into stuff now that I've done enough of that intro stuff, probably too much, scaring listeners away. But again, ask those questions, use the hashtag UNC Hoops Talk. On YouTube, leave a comment, and I will get those questions, and we'll and get them up there. And even to start here, like I said, we did have some questions ahead of time. And speaking of John B, he left the comment, or really question, trivia question, who led the ACC in free throw percentage last season? So he did leave the answer. I don't know that I would have guessed this correctly. But I'm going to throw that up there so that you can maybe think about it, and we'll see if you were right by the end of the show when I put up his answer. So let's jump into it. We're going to go through what my expectations of the players in the Tar Heels are for this season. So I'm going to start with the guys returning that started and got the most playing time, and obviously we'll work our way down. And I don't know that I'll necessarily finish with the freshmen, but we'll throw them in there for sure at some point as well. So for this Tar Heel team, you pretty much have to start all your talking with Marcus Page. All ACC player returning. Just obviously, it was our leader. Led us in. Actually, I don't know if he ended up leading us in scoring. I believe he did, but who we what's the word I'm looking for? Depended on so heavily last year. Pretty much our lone three-point shooter. Everything is a preseason All-American, not just All-ACC, but All-American. What I expect from Marcus Page this season, I expect, one, his stats probably won't be as good. I don't expect his stats to be quite as good as last year, as high. I don't know that he'll score as much. What I do expect maybe is for his shooting percentage to go up. Probably not his free throw percentage. He's a pretty darn good free throw shooter, but I expect him to be taking good shots as a junior and as a leader. I think it'll be harder for him to get those shots because teams obviously know he's our outside shooter. He's our leader. Teams are going to be playing him tightly. We saw some teams play box and one against him last year. And I think he could easily see that again, especially if nobody else steps up to shoot threes. So I do think his stats may take a dip. His assists should go up. I think he'll be playing more at the point guard this year than he was last year when we had to play him off the ball. So I do think his assists could go up and should go up. But like points scored and things like that, probably not going to be as high. But I do I think he'll have a successful season. I don't know that he'll be an All-American. I don't know that I expect him to be an All-American at the end of the season, but an All-ACC player for sure, probably first team. I would put him in the running for ACC Player of the Year. I just don't think he's going to put up the stats to be an All-American or to make a run at National Player of the Year. Um, hey, hopefully he proves me wrong, but that's kind of what I expect from him. Other starter returning, JP Tokoto. I expect him to have a similar season than what he did last year. Again, I don't want to get too much detail and try to predict how many points they're going to score and things like that. But JP was kind of an X factor. He was a stat stuffer last year, and I expect that from him this year. He's not going to be our leading scorer, not going to be our leading rebounder, but he's going to definitely contribute in both of those. If you want a range, I'm going to say he's going to be right around 10 points. If you want to say 8 to 12 points a game, I think he can get 6 rebounds a game. But really, it's going to be the little things that he can make the difference in. Grabbing that one important rebound, or making that steal that just changes the game, or the dunk that changes the game. It doesn't necessarily go in the stat book besides 2 points. Defensively, I think he's going to be, that we can lean on him pretty heavily. I think he's going to be a good defensive player for us this year. A lot of times have to guard the other team's best player. And yeah, like I said, similar to last year, maybe a little bit of a bump in stats. Hopefully his shooting percentage better. Hopefully his free throw shooting percentage is better. But overall, pretty similar to last year, maybe just what I would call a little more matured this year as opposed to last year. We'll go to Nate Britt next. Very interesting case here with Nate Britt. Starting the season, and then when Leslie came back, and got put more into just the backup point guard role, pushed Marcus over to the 2. Over the off season, we heard that he switched from shooting left-handed to taking his jump shots right-handed. Should be an interesting case there, seeing how that develops. Really, I don't know if Nate's going to have as big of an impact this year as he did last year. I don't know that he didn't play as much with the addition of our freshman point guard. So it's just so tough. I don't want to cop out and say it's going to be similar to last year. I think actually he may get less minutes. This is my prediction here. He's going to get less minutes per game this year, but his points are going to be higher because he's going to take better shots, and hopefully his shot is better. I'm not going to say it's because he's shooting right-handed, but just hopefully the work that he's putting in. So his points will be higher. His assist will be higher per game because he's making smarter decisions. And that is my prediction for Nate Britt. So less minutes, more points per game. So I guess you would say a bigger impact in that way, because in less minutes he's doing more for us, which obviously would be welcomed for this team. So let's jump over to Bryce Johnson. Did not start most of the time. I think he maybe had two starts last year, which were probably his 2 worst games. Got injured in the last game against Iowa State, which we lost in the tournament. Only played a couple minutes. And actually in the Bahamas, he sprained his ankle and only played like 7 minutes in each of those games. So I think he is a very important player for us this year. For us to have as a successful season as we can, I think Bryce has to stay healthy. If we do lose somebody to injury, I think it will be Bryce, unfortunately, because he is so important rebounding-wise, especially offensive rebounds and putbacks. I think that's where he can get a lot of his points. Short little jumpers and 8 feet out to 12 feet out around that free throw line. He can really make some money in that range. Blocking shots, he's going to be probably our main shot blocker if we're going to have one, unless Desmond Hewitt gets a lot of minutes. So he is a very important part to our team, and I just hope that injuries don't affect him too much. And I'm not going to predict obviously a major injury for him, but it could be just the nagging stuff where it's the ankles, or a wrist like John Henson that one year, or Ed Davis as well, something like that. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Bryce has the impact, because I can see him easily getting 12 to 14 points, 8 rebounds a game, a block shot or two a game, and really change the game defensively for us with block shots, but also the quick points that he's able to produce for us. So hopefully he jumps into that starting role and does succeed the way he can, as long as he stays healthy. So let's see, who do we want to jump over to next? How about Kennedy Meeks? Again, another interesting one, and kind of hard to predict. Last year was playing, at 320, I think was his weight, 310 maybe by the end of the season. And we saw he didn't have the lift that he needed to really dunk on people or really get up and be effective around the hoop, or at least as effective as he could be. I'm looking at the roster right now on GoHeels.com, and it says he's 270, but he just posted, I think it was Instagram he posted to, either Twitter or Instagram, he posted a picture and he was down to 266. So, by the beginning of the season he could be down in the low 260s. I think he needs to be careful about how far he goes down, because his body pushing people around was a weapon for him last year and was effective using the body pushing people away. So he can't lose too much weight. In Bahamas, I think he was still adjusting to his new body. If you saw any highlights or anything, wasn't really effective. But I do think he has more explosiveness. Obviously, he's been working on that as well. And so he's just, it's going to take him a little bit of time. I'm going to say he starts off pretty slow, but he's really going to be our inside presence as far as scoring, rebounding. I'm going to go ahead and say he's at 8 to 10 points a game. Man, I feel like I could give everybody that score, right around 10 points a game. But I'm going to say he's 8 to 10 points a game. He can get 7 to 8 rebounds a game. I'm not going to say he's going to average a block shot or not a game, but he'll have some in there that really help us out. Like obviously the outlet passing, everybody's always talked about that with Kennedy Meeks. Hopefully he really finds that niche, gets it out to Marcus Page and JP Tokuto, and even our other wings, Theo and Joel and Jackson, Justin Jackson, sorry, is who I'm referring to there, so that they can really get out and run. But I'm going to take a moment right here, and I'm going to predict my starting five. I think to start the season, Roy is going to start Nate and Marcus in the gosh, I'm struggling with words. In the back floor, back court. I'm not really this slow, guys. Sorry, it's a Thursday moment or something, off-season moment. All right, so Nate and Marcus in the backcourt, JP, Bryce, and Kennedy as our front court there. But I do predict that, I don't know if it's going to be at the start of ACC play, maybe a little bit earlier, somewhere in there, that Theo Pinson is going to be starting instead of Nate, and that'll obviously push Marcus back to the point guard position. So that's my prediction for starting lineup. I'm not going to say win, but at some point I think Theo, because of his defense, is going to jump in and replace Nate in the starting lineup. And so why don't we just jump into Theo Pinson right now, freshman forward / guard out of North Carolina. Very athletic. I think he needs to work on his shot a little bit. I wrote a post on the blog. It's been some while now. If you search class of 2014 or class of 14, you'll find it. But he kind of reminds me of a Jackie Manuel, but obviously more gifted offensively, better shot. I still think he needs to work on his jump shot, but that's kind of what he reminds me of. And again, depending on the playing time he has, I don't think he quite gets to 10 points a game. Maybe 7, 8 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, somewhere in there. He'll probably get close to block a game. That's athletic as he is, and again, he's just going to be kind of that glue guy that really does, kind of like JP is almost, does a little bit of everything. It just really helps us, but maybe doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. So from Theo, I want to jump into Isaiah Hicks, another obviously interesting player for us. Came in very highly touted, had in his state championship game like 34 points and 30 rebounds. And last year got stuck playing the three a lot without PJ and was out of position. So I mean, just think about that. You're going from high school to playing for North Carolina, and then you have to go from playing post to playing on the wing. You know, you're learning a new system, and then you're learning a new position. And I think it really took a toll on him, and he haven't admitted as much throughout the season. Instead of just kind of taking one for the team in that aspect. But I expect more. Now, he was our leading scorer in the Bahamas for both games. I don't expect him to be our leading scorer. I think it, again, kind of like Theo, around 7-8 points a game, but he could easily get, 5, 6, 7 rebounds a game. And I think he'll have a much better, I think he'll look like just a totally different player out there this year than he did last year because he's in that position and just that much more comfortable. And could be the first player. I'm going to say Roy probably has Desmond come off the bench first just because he is a senior, but he may be our most effective post player coming off the bench. There you go. That's the way we'll put it. So we can talk about Desmond. I don't expect a ton, obviously offensively. Hopefully he can. I know Roy's going to give him some minutes, especially early on, to kind of see what he can do. And I do hope he can help us defensively. I think he's got to give us a little bit something offensively if he wants to continue to get those minutes. So I don't want to predict stats for him, but I just hope that this is maybe a prediction, but I hope he is very effective defensively, and then at least manageable offensively to we're not playing 4-on-5 on the offensive end. So I want to jump over to the other freshman right now. First, Justin Jackson. He's a player I love. I've seen lots of highlights. I've kind of said he could be a poor man's Kevin Durant. He just kind of has that. He's 6'8". He can play the 2, the 3. If we wanted to go small or thin, maybe is a way to put it, he could play the 4, but he's not going to post up, things like that. But to have a 6'8" guy be able to play the 2 and the 3, that can cause some big matchup problems for some players. So I'm really looking forward to Justin. He is a very skilled offensive player. I think like Bryce, he's going to struggle early on defensively. He went to a homeschool, or he was homeschooled and played in a homeschool league or whatever. And they played a lot of zone, and he played almost a center position in the middle of that bottom of the zone. So I think coming into Roy's system, he could struggle a lot like Bryce did his freshman year, and he lived a little bit of his sophomore year. I hope he doesn't struggle as much as Bryce to where Roy doesn't give him the playing time that he didn't give to Bryce because of it. Because again, offensively, he is there. He's got it all. He's got the runner, the mid-range. If they're going to put somebody smaller on him, he can post them up if it's a smaller guy. But his range can go out to three-point range. And really, I was going to talk about this later, but Marcus being our only three-point player, I think Justin's probably going to be our next best option as far as a three-point shooter. Unless Joel Berry kind of surprises me, or somebody else really stepped it up over the off season. But just so excited for him offensively. Again, it's going to depend on his defense, how much playing time he gets. But if he gets enough, I can easily see him averaging 12, 14 points, being kind of that instant offense off the bench like Bryce was when he came off the bench. So really excited about Justin Jackson. Joel Berry going to give us a much better stable option at the point when Marcus isn't there. I think he's to be more stable and run the offense better as long as he gets it, and I think he will, than Nate Britt was. And to have those two guys together is going to be a great option. If Joel Berry is a scoring point guard, he can score, and he can score in bunches, but I think his biggest aspect, or what he can bring to the team, is the way he can distribute the ball. If he's willing to kind of take a hit with the points, I think he can be really special setting up our guys and getting us going in the offense. And actually got a question kind of related to this from Michael Johnson on Google Plus. He said the proposed backcourt of Page and Berry would be extremely small. Do you think it would be effective? Forgive me for jumping the gun with the question. Not jumping the gun at all, Michael. Thank you for the question. Um, you know, Page has always kind of taken a hit for his stature. He's pretty thin and not tall. But Joel Berry is much stockier than Marcus Page came in as, or Nate Britt is bigger than him. And so I mean, they're shorter if we play them together, but I think that's going to be a great backcourt. Late in games, we can have those two guys handle the ball, taking care of it. You know, as long as Joel Berry can hit his free throws, you know, their guard Marcus Page, we get it to him. He can handle the ball. If he knocks down his free throws, we can be pretty deadly at the end of games and really put people away where we kind of didn't in the past. So it may be a little small. I do think it can be quite effective, and I'm excited to see that backcourt if they play together or when they play together, because I do expect to see that. So that's kind of my expectations for Joel Berry. Big, maybe not stat-wise, besides maybe assists. I think defensively he can be tough on the other point guard when he wants to, when he applies it, but may not show up in the stat sheet. But I think he will have a big impact on this team once he gets going. So that really hits on most of our big-time players. Let's see, guys that I didn't talk about. Luke Davis, stuck way back there, point guard. Early on may get some minutes. I don't see him having really any impact in the long term. Jackson Simmons, I think he'll still get those kind of minutes in there where Roy needs to fire up the guys. He'll come in and do everything exactly how Roy wants it to be done. He'll lift us up, and hopefully that leads us to wins. And so in that way, I guess you'd say he'd be a big impact. But I don't see him getting consistent minutes throughout the season to where he has that impact. Joel James, as much as I'd love to see this guy in there with his body and just the charisma he has, seems like a great kid. But again, he just hasn't developed the way he needed to get consistent minutes like that. And so I don't see him being, again, maybe getting a couple minutes early on, maybe getting 8 minutes a game to 10 minutes a game, but that dwindling down to 2 to 5 minutes a game. And hopefully he can be effective in those and really help us out. But I don't see a lot or expect a lot out of Joel James this year. And then Stillman White, again, stuck behind. If you talk about the points, we got point guards. We got Marcus Page, Joel Berry, Nate Britt, Luke Davis, Stillman White. And that's kind of the order I'd put him in. Maybe Stillman ahead of Luke Davis. I don't know. But there's just not a ton of room there to get minutes as a backup point guard behind Marcus, Joel, and Nate. So not a lot expected out of him. I know he's a fan favorite. A lot of people would love to see it, but I just, again, don't really see that happening. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we're blowing people out so much that they get a lot of playing time every game or most games. But again, those are my player expectations for this Tar Heel team. I know I'm starting to go long. I'll try to wrap it up here quick towards the end. But I did want to kind of keep you updated on a few things. As far as the show goes, I'm looking at the next podcast being Thursday, October 2nd. And like I said in the last podcast, it's going to be my predictions for the win-loss record for this team and kind of how the season's going to go, what our final record's going to be, how far we're going to make it, my predictions on that. And I'm actually going to go through each game. The schedule is up. If you go to goheels.com and search for the schedule, you can find it. Again, I'll put the link in the description below as well. But I'm going to go through each game and predict out preseason what I think we're going to win, where we may trip up and lose, and what my final record is for this team. Obviously, depending on how far we go in the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, but as close as I can get to predicting that. And also, if you are out there, if you're watching this and you'd like to come on, give your predictions, maybe argue with me, whatever, again, email me or contact me on one of the social networks. I can throw those up there real quick. Twitter, I'm at AllTarHeelDan. Google Plus is just my name, Dan DeWitt. But again, email. It's just unchoopstalk@gmail.com. We can go back and forth and see what works for you on that Thursday. and see if I can get one or two guys on here to give me their predictions on the season along with mine. But I'm looking at that, and then I'm looking towards the end of October, possibly doing another one to kind of ramp up before we get weekly during the season. But somewhere around the 28th of October or so, doing another show, just getting ready for the season, because October 3rd is the Late Night with Roy, and then we get a couple of exhibitions in there. So somewhere at the end of October, and then November 11, 13, somewhere in there of November, kind of getting it started and hopefully going weekly. Now, to start the season, I'm going to just warn you, I probably won't be able to announce the show ahead of time when I'm going to be doing it. If you want to join live, it may be last minute, that kind of stuff, but you can let me know, and I'll definitely send you, a Twitter message or a notification somewhere if you'd like to see it live if you can. But it may be announced late because we are going to have the next Tar Heel baby. That's right. My wife is due November 6th, so kind of right at the beginning of there. So and it is a boy, so we have a Tar Heel on the way, and so that may affect how much I can schedule ahead of time for when I do a show, or hopefully I don't miss any. But yeah, it's going to affect kind of when I can do it and that kind of stuff. Having a baby, if anybody has kids, they kind of know the wrench they can throw in plans. Not that it's a bad thing, but they can definitely throw the wrench in there. So other things, again, if you want to be a guest with me on that, please let me know. Connect with me on social media, email, whatever. Even if it's not about that, about anything, please connect with me. This show is about uniting Tar Heel fans and getting us together and rallying together and talking about college hoops with a Carolina bias, of course. But also, again, I wanted to update you. Hopefully this is the first show on iTunes. If you are listening to this on iTunes, thank you, welcome. Leave a review, and also people that aren't watching on iTunes, if when this goes up on iTunes, if you're willing to give me a iTunes rating, because that'll be important in bumping it up in iTunes so more people find it. If you're willing to give me an iTunes review, please let me know. I would like to get kind of that ramped up even before it gets onto iTunes. So let me know about that. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love for you to subscribe. That also helps a lot. Those are kind of going to be there's going to be three things that if you can do one of those or even two of those, will help me out. It'll be iTunes reviews, subscription on YouTube, or obviously supporting on Patreon would be huge. Taking out those hosting costs for iTunes and for the website and things like that. But also look at those other goals. I hope you get almost as excited as I know it's technically my show, but hopefully you get just as excited as I do for some of that stuff. So yeah, iTunes coming soon. Hopefully website coming soon. More shows. The season is coming. Think about that. October 3rd is Late Night with Roy. That's only a couple of weeks away. I hope you're pumped. Connect with me. Share this show. Tell your Tar Heel friends, your family. Let's ramp up Tar Heel Nation and really get it going. But I think that is all I have. Another shout out to John B for being our patron on patreon.com. Single-handedly hosting the iTunes cost for us right now, and just so pumped about that. Thanks, John. Thank you for watching, whether this is live that you're watching, whether it's you're watching this later on YouTube or listening on SoundCloud or iTunes. I appreciate you. Again, connect with me. And let's just have a great season. Look forward to it. Lots of potential with this team. But until next time, go Heels. Oh, hold on. Before we go, sorry, I almost forgot. I was about to hit that stop button. But we did have the answer. If you remember, the question that John left ahead of time was who led the ACC in free throw percentage last season. And he actually added to it with his answer. But the answer is Marcus Page did from UNC with an 88% free throw percentage. And then he asked in his answer, do you think we will be able to get another play in the top 30? Because last season at 30 was, I don't even know this guy, E. Atkins from Notre Dame with a 67% from free throw line. and to qualify, he had to be on pace to play in 75% of the team's games, and average more than 2.5 free throws per game to qualify. And Marcus Page is the only person we could get in the top 30 in lead. And so I do think we can get another person in the top 30. I think I would look for James Michael McAdoo. I was thinking of him because I read a stat the other day that he shot over 100 more free throws than the next person on our team. And of course, was like our worst. He was like just over 50%. But I think Joel Berry, as I mentioned, could be important in those as long as he gets that many. Could be in there. I know Justin Jackson's a good shooter. He could easily get in there. Nate Britt was a good free throw shooter. I don't know that he shot enough to qualify. At least later in the season he was. Trying to think if I go back to my roster here, who else could get up in there? Theo possibly. I think our freshmen will be pretty decent shooters. Bryce Johnson could. I mean, I think he's on the top 30. That's the thing. Top 30 shouldn't be that hard to get into it. 68%. That should be easy for free throw shooting for these college guys. Let's see. I think like Jackson Simmons could. He's not going to shoot enough to. Isaiah Hicks, maybe if he gets fouled enough, maybe he could get up in there. I don't know if Kennedy Meeks would get in the top 30. I don't remember him being a stellar three-point or free throw shooter or anything like that. But again, John, thanks for the question, the trivia question actually, and answer. Again, thanks everybody for joining me. Until next time, go Heels.